With several infrastructural developments taking place in Jamaica, is there enough local talent to take on the job? Joining us for this discussion is President of the Jamaica Institution of Engineers, Godfrey Boyd. Good morning, Godfrey.
Good morning to you.
Morning,
Good
sir.
morning.
Welcome to Smith.
Thank you for having me here this morning.
Right. So, as we just started with the introduction, there's a lot going on infrastructurally. Lots of buildings, bridges, you name it. A wide selection of construction projects taking place. Yes. But there's a concern about engineers. But should we be concerned? What's going on?
Well, to answer that question, one has to look first at the traditional areas of engineering. From the 60s upwards, I would say up until the late 90s, you were either a chemical engineer, a civil engineer, electrical, a mechanical, agricultural, and industrial engineer. And what happens is that when you went to engineering school, you were first trained as what we call a generalist. So you were training across all the areas. And then you specialize in areas.
It's almost like medicine where like you're a GP.
Right.
And get into surgery. And
yes. So in our industry, your engineers in general could apply themselves across the board. Right? And interestingly enough, more than 70% of engineers who start out after their grad program tend to end up in maintenance. But what has happened as the world has progressed, we have now specialized. So years ago, when you used to do your first degree, and then if you do a second degree, you could specialize in an area. What's happening now in a lot of the university programs is that persons are specializing from early.
From day one.
From day one. So they are no longer generalists, but they are specialists. Mm-hmm. And I think that is
That's
where...
That's good or bad?
It has its good and bad to it, because unfortunately, there's a whole adage that if you're a mechanical engineer, for instance, the general public think you're a mechanic. And if you're an electrical engineer, they think you're an electrician. And aptly so, based on your training, you're able to apply yourself to those areas, right? But with the specialization, what you might find is that you might have somebody now who is not able to the simple common things. So if you're in the area of electrical engineering, for instance, you might find that you might not be able to fix the plugs in your house or look at your electrical systems because that was not your area of specialty. Right. You are looking at something else. You might be somebody who specializes, for instance, in lightning protection, right? As I was saying earlier, when I did my course of study, part of my specialization was telecommunications and power systems. Nowadays, persons are studying as telecom, or we call them maybe sound engineer, acoustic engineers, or so. So they are very specialized.
Niche.
Right. So what happens here? I don't want to say we are short. What we're short on is the specialized engineers who have the experience.
Yep. The Jamaica Institution of Engineers, you cover all of those.
All of those.
Who you were speaking
yes,
about.
Yes.
Is there any area in all of those that you might say, you know, we're short on this kind of engineer? Are we short? Is there any area that, or no?
Again, what I'm saying is, I know persons are trying to, because the Prime Minister is not opening off the other leg on the southern side of the island, and he said we were short. Not to get political, if you look at designs, so you look at civil engineering, where some person may specialize in infrastructure, some structural, etc. What you might find happen is that there may be a shortage of those persons who are in the design side, experience-wise, no, I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily just the technical or the academic training, but the experience.
Hands-on.
But certainly, we do have persons who are construction managers, we have project managers, so we do have those persons.
But the hands-on people?
We do have the hands-on persons and others. But what I'm trying to say is that in some of the areas, and it's not just only where civil is concerned, right, but it's actually having those persons who are, that is their discipline.
Right.
Like you mentioned, if you went to the hospital and you were to do surgery on your brain. I'm sure you don't want a pediatrician to do it for you. You don't want a neurosurgeon. So, right? Or you don't want a general practitioner. So it is in the area of specialization that we may have a challenge, because the truth be told, we do need more. We do need more, right? We do know. I think on an average, our universities per year, we are producing somewhere in about 300 to 350 engineers. And of course, you know, some of those will migrate.
Right.
Yes.
Is 300 to 350 enough to satisfy the local needs? Or, again, are you noticing a trend in the terms of the types of engineers graduating on an annual basis? As to whether or not we're satisfying the local needs, it would also be, we have to look at the area of employment. Right. Because, yes, we are producing engineers, but I'll tell you, a lot of engineers are out there now, and they're not working in the field of engineering. A lot of them have been underemployed, so there are engineers out there who are working as technicians. Right? I just want to quote something and talk about the Prime Minister's comments. He said the country is now faced with a challenge of finding skilled workers to fill vacancies, right? Of course, he was talking at the launch of the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. Yes. But he said, we have a good thing going with employment, but we now have a new challenge, a new problem. We cannot find skilled workers. Now, there are persons in the economy who are unemployed, and there are persons in the economy who are looking for jobs and can't find jobs. You always have that in any economy. It's called frictional unemployment, and he went on and on and on. So it was specifically about engineering. Well, certainly not in this article where it's quoted. Right. But are you foreseeing a massive issue here where engineers are concerned? I mean, yes, we're talking about them being very specialized, but is it something that we can head off? What would your recommendation be to students looking to get into engineering, to schools training engineers, to the government overall in advising the situation? All right, so if you look at it and listen to the words carefully, when he spoke about skilled. Right. And skill is not just academics. Of course. It is also your experience, right? One of the things I'd say to encourage us so that our population can benefit is, especially, you have heard of STEM programs, right? Where we're looking at the application of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And even most recently, an A has been added to it, where we talk about the all aspects of arts. Because you have to prepare the young minds from now, get them interested. Over the years, I know the Ministry of Education has had a challenge in relation to the science grades, especially mathematics, right? And Jamaica Institution of Engineers have been participating in our country. We have been involved with homework programs. We have been involved with helping kids to for the different exams that they are. And we are involved with STEM in general. The Scientific Research Council just recently launched their own STEM program. And we do have persons from JIE who are STEM ambassadors. And there are other persons within the country who are trying to do so. The universities themselves have been tailoring their programs a lot to suit what our needs of the country. I can give some examples. For instance, the CMU, Caribbean Maritime University, they have been producing graduates in an area called mechatronics. The University of West Indies, as well as UTEC, we have now gone into biomedical engineering. Previously, we were getting the persons from United States. That's where they had to be trained or other places in the world. Now, we are actually having programs that are producing. I mean, we still need more, right? We still need more persons, but at least the universities have been responsive in that area. You mentioned CMU and mechatronics, just for the benefit of viewers who may not know. Yes. What? It is an area of engineering which has a merger. It's mechanical, it's electrical, it's a lot of other disciplines combined together. Yep. Yes.
It seems like we shouldn't be too concerned overall from what I just heard from you. Overall.
I'm not saying that we should not be concerned, because certainly if we are going to increase our manufacturing, if we're going to increase our production, right, and certainly if we're going to improve our economic situation, and my favorite pet area, our health, then we need engineering.
Yeah.
And therefore, the production or the output from these universities is important.
No, I'm not saying we don't need, but from what I'm hearing from you,
not a crisis.
It don't sound like it reached crisis proportion.
I wouldn't say it reached crisis proportion, but I'm saying it is a major concern, because we need to have these engineers, we need to have the specialization, but it's most important to remember, when you get them, if they're going to be sitting around idle, because remember, you know,
they're not going to stay in the profession.
They're not going to stay. They're going to go somewhere else, and that's not what we want. We want them having spent monies on their development. Yeah. We want them to input back here in Jamaica.
AMDG.
Yes, always. The real blue.
Quit. President of the Jamaica Institution of Engineers, Godfrey Boyd.
He wouldn't understand what we just talked about. I mean,
I'm a different blue. I'm from Mannings.
Yeah,
that's not a blue.
It's all right. All right, folks, that was an important conversation that we just had. Even a more important one, in my opinion, comes up after the break. We'll be speaking about mental health. Stay with us, please. Soon come.